I'm just wondering, Georgia, with your point about women's studies, Asian studies, African American studies, there seems to be a constituency there to push that agenda. What is the constituency for leadership studies? Who's out there pushing that agenda?
Well, I think disciplines are a lens in which to view the same phenomena. So if we take Bob's example of the dam building, we can look at it from an engineer's lens and see and make lots of conclusions about it. We can look at it from a gendered perspective and see the same event very differently. We can look at it from a political science, regime theory, how things got done or didn't get done. But I also think we can look at it from a leadership perspective. So I think it's a legitimate lens to look at a phenomena as much as anything else. So what's the connection between women's studies? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying I think there are a lot of women out there pushing an agenda like that. The women out there pushing an agenda like that for very important reasons.
Right.
For that study.
Right.
Or African Americans pushing that agenda for that study.
Right.
Who's the constituency pushing the agenda for leadership education?
Okay. Anybody else? Stuart?
No. Let me follow up on that a bit. I think that's a great question. I think my perspective, since I am a student of leadership studies, but also run a Center for Community Engagement at Williams College, trying to get students to go out and practice leadership in the world. I think it's crucial now, more than ever, to see that this is an opportunity that, whether you voted for Obama or not, that there is going to be a great opening, as there was when Kennedy was elected in 1960, and even though he himself might not have represented a lot of the values that his followers did, they then ran with the spirit of idealism that he generated. And I think there are going to be huge numbers of students and young people in the next several years who are going to be really wanting to learn. And I was glad one of the panelists mentioned Aristotle's practical theory, because I think practical theory is really the crucial thing that we need to look at to direct leadership theory or leadership studies more in the direction of what are the specific changes that need to be made and how do we specifically go about making those changes. And I think that otherwise you tend to get into such abstractions that if you're not focusing on an issue like global warming or the economy or racism, etc., and especially if you're not focusing on all the interconnections among this storm of crisis problems, that then we really get lost in a lot of sort of keep spinning the wheels and don't really get to solving the problems. And I think there's going to be a huge constituency of young people out there who are going to be really wanting leadership studies to guide them. And I would like to see the theory kind of move in the direction of what are the specific goals of all this great organizing that hopefully is going to emerge in the next decade.
In terms of legitimizing the field of leadership studies, in my opinion, speaking, thank you on behalf of the slightly under 35 years old crowd, I think the field is going to self-legitimate itself. Just us being here are help legitimize the field. One analogy that I draw to the field of leadership is the field of music, that I don't hear the people in the field of music trying to necessarily define what music is anymore. And I see that perhaps in our future, that we all have, that there is a constellation of many different conceptions of what leadership is, but we all work under this general assumption that we're here for the same, within the same field. And in terms of, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Stuart. What Stuart was just saying of what do we do with this knowledge, going again off of the idea of the field of music, there are music theorists, there are people that specialize in various areas of music history, and one thing that I would be particularly excited to talk about and explore would be the equivalent of a music performance major, to see a leadership performance major, when we begin to engage students in what is the change that you want to see in the world, how can we take this body of knowledge, empower you with it, and send you forth to perform, to really, we look at physics. At some point, somebody got in a rocket ship and went to the moon, right? And I agree. I think it's very important that at some point we need to put some students in rocket ships and use what we are studying, use what we are deciding toward an aspirational end.
I've been coming to ILA for a long time, studying this stuff for even longer, and chaos and complexity theory, having it really discussed up front and acknowledging that we've got a paradigm shift from the Newtonian understandings, the mechanistic understandings of social sciences and leadership, and we're moving in this direction. We have to have a lot more accessible information for undergraduate students, for graduate students to be doing research in this area. I think, will it move toward a general theory? I think as we understand the foundational assumptions in a better way, that could help to legitimatize what we're doing. So please keep this going.
There's great hope in the future on this subject, which is so difficult for all of us, and that is that the Chinese have published that book that we're talking about. There are several Chinese scholars here who approached me, and I think we can leave it up to the Chinese to solve this question of is there a general theory of leadership.
No, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Very much like to thank the panel. Thank you very much.